Muse Music Store and Mahaska County Conservation Board presents Eveland Access Summerfest Music by the River 2024, June 1st from noon to 10 p.m., featuring 8 musical artists with live music, activities like bingo, sand volleyball, and cornhole, food, and much, much more. It's a free event at the Eveland Access Campgrounds at 2890 Galveston Avenue, Oskaloosa. Bring a friend and have a lot of fun at the Eveland Access Summerfest 2024 Music by the River, June 1st from noon to 10 at the Eveland Access Campgrounds.
Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast, May 7th, about 9 o'clock. Mavericks and Thunder are on right now, so if you see me looking up, I'm watching that. Should be this is game one, should be a great series. To Oklahoma City, real young, but Denver has one of the best players in the league in Luka. All right, so tonight, we're off tonight. It is Tuesday night. Trev, I know you have some thoughts, but I wrote down some, like bullet points and kind of a sheet here for us. And I didn't share it with you, and I did that on purpose. We're just going to kind of go through some of my highlights of the last week or so and kind of get your raw thoughts.
All right.
And then you probably have kind of some thoughts for you as well. But I just kind of thought that'd be fun. Usually we have, our show notes that we share back and forth and everything, but I kind of thought this week it might be a little bit interesting just to get your thoughts without thinking about them a lot, I guess.
Okay. Well, I'm ready when you are.
Okay. All right. First thing, we have to start here. We're going to start here as much as we can. Caitlin Clark's first game. Highlights, lowlights. How do you think she did in her first game? And then, what's kind of been interesting to me is I've kind of watched the Indiana Fever press availability. She's not available every day. She's not, sometimes they talk to others. And it's interesting just the dynamic of, professional basketball. And you can tell she's a rookie, and I think they're trying to help her ease into it a little bit. And, just how practice and everything else like that. How do you think her first her first game was, and then, first week or so of professional basketballs went for Caitlin Clark?
Well, I thought her first game went really well. She came out firing. You see it sometimes with rookies in other sports. They might be hesitant to take the bull by the horns. They want the approval from the vets. She came out right away. This is her team. She made a bunch of threes to start the game. I missed her first one that she missed because I was texting my grandma. My grandma actually downloaded the app to watch the game. Caitlin got 4 fouls. 2 I thought were right. 2 were iffy. Whatever. She finished with 21 points. And I think she only had 2 assists. The one thing I did notice, she actually had a lot of good passes in the game. Her teammates missed some easy shots. I thought she could have finished with 21 and 7. If she didn't get those fouls too, she probably could have got over 30. So my first impression, I think she's going to be just fine. Well, it's only one preseason game. We'll see how it goes. The one thing I did notice, she had a nice jumper there in the second quarter. And we all know she's going to shoot the 3. Cheryl Swoops had a comment. She had a couple. One I agreed with, one I disagreed with. The one I disagreed with, she said, Caitlin Clark's going to have to get used to the pace of play. Well, anybody that watched Caitlin Clark at Iowa knows she likes to play fast. I don't think the pace of play is going to be a problem. That's going to fit her game. I think where she is going to have some trouble is scoring down low. The women in the WNBA are just bigger and more talented, so she's not going to get those easy layups. So I think her mid-range shot is something that she should do more this year, and that we might see an improvement in that because everyone knows she's going to shoot the 3. I think her mid-range shot is something that she could really work at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I did not watch the game, be the first to tell you that. But just the highlights I saw, and I think her shot is going left. And I watched this with a couple basketball people, like the highlights, and I'm like, every shot is dribble, right-handed dribble, but then step left and shoot it. And the WNBA is going to get on her about that. So she's going to have to work on going right to her shot. Not that she can't, but just her favorite shot is left. And I 100% agree with the down low. She's not going to be able to blow by someone and finish at the rim as easily. most of her shots, I mean, she literally was a 3-pointer or a layup. That's what she shot at Iowa for the most part. She's going to have to develop that little teardrop, a little runner, or just a 10 to 12 footer. She stops just inside the free throw line and just pops it. And then she's really going to be, I'm not going to say unstoppable scorer, but just unbelievably tough to stop on the offensive end. And you're 100% right. I thought this would maybe go a little smoother, and maybe it is just they need to get used to her passes, that they miss shots and miss catches just like the girls from Iowa did. And I think that will get better with time once they get more playing time with Caitlin Clark. So, yeah, I was a little surprised in her lack of assist as well. But as you said, and I saw some of the highlights there, she had some more opportunities, missed shots, and then just some missed opportunities as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure her teammates, Aaliyah Boston, will play a lot better most games. Offensively, she struggled. There were some people saying she looked maybe like she was a little bit out of shape. I don't know if she was or not. It's one game. One thing I did notice, though, is I forget what part of the game it was in. Caitlin was getting a little physical down low playing defense, and she threw a little bit of an elbow at the girl defending her, and the girl came right back 1 second later and threw an elbow at her face. Nothing over the top, but a little bit more physical. I think Caitlin's going to have to do that. She's going to have to stand her ground, and I wouldn't be surprised if she has a few dumb technicals this year. She's going to have to learn where the threshold is, and some of the vets in the league are going to test her, and they're probably going to get her and catch her off and get her in a bad spot. But she's going to need to stand her ground, though, and I think she will. This moment didn't look too big for her. We all saw the past 2 years kind of the media circus that was at Iowa. The WNBA probably media and stuff like that, she's used to it. She's hardened. So I thought she came out aggressive. You could tell it's her team, and I think she's going to be just fine.
Yeah, with her being in shape, out of shape, I think so it is. The coaches need to learn how to sub her in and out and what she needs, and she needs to learn herself. Just, the game's different, and, they kind of had it down for she's a 4-year starter at Iowa. She was going to they were going to use the media timeouts to get her extra time.
I was talking about Aaliyah Boston being a little out of shape is what some people were saying, and my theory on that was, I don't know if she is or isn't, but we saw her doing all the ESPN stuff during the college basketball, because we know the WNBA players don't make a lot of money. They have to do stuff on the side. So I was talking about Aaliyah. I thought Caitlin looked fine I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, but she pulled herself out and she was grabbing at her jersey a little bit, saying, "Hey, I need out, I need one," and that just takes the coach learning her and Caitlin learning the game, and that's what these preseason games are about. She just got drafted a week and a half ago, and it just takes time, and it is professional basketball, and we're going to get to the next thing here, but just the travel, there's not a restriction on amount of hours you can do it. Now, you don't have the school, you don't have other things, but her time is valuable, and she's trying to figure it out. She had the premiere of the Netflix documentary, the Omaha Productions with Peyton Manning. Her and her teammates went to. There's just things like that haven't always come up for her that she's going to have to learn, and still, make sure her, sleep schedule's good. Her, diet is correct. Just everything that needs to be a professional athlete. She's learning that. It is different. College is different than pros. And in that, I'm going to get to the next thing here. The WNBA did come out and say that they will be transferring, as soon as possible, they will be transferring from commercial flights to chartered flights for every team. And that came to a big light when the Fever went down to Dallas airport. They were waiting for their bags, commercial flights. And I think it was last year or the year before, the New York Liberty owner got fined or whatever big time because he chartered. He said, heck with it. I'm chartering a flight for my girls, my team. It's just easier. But in the collective bargaining agreement, that was not allowed. So he got fined. I don't think he really cared. But they will be transitioning to chartered flights. I don't know exactly when that'll happen. I think the release said as soon as they can get the flights, and it takes a little bit of time, and I understand that. And everybody's like, well, why is this even an issue? It's all about money. The WNBA makes zero money. If they were not subsidized by the NBA or have some just super rich owners, which most of them are owned by the NBA owner as well, the league would not exist. It's just the real capitalistic situation that they're in. I think Andy Fales on What's Bugging Andy said last year was a 20-year high for the WNBA finals, and the highest was like 792,000 people watched it. The WNBA or the NBA championship last year averaged 11 million. It's just not the same. And so they don't have all the creature comforts. And this is one of the things that might have brought Caitlin Clark back. She's used to flying chartered flights everywhere. The Iowa women's basketball team does not fly commercial. Aaliyah Boston of South Carolina did not fly commercial. UConn does not fly commercial. LSU does not. Everybody talks about that $100 million contract that the TV gives for the football, which is true, but that funds all these other teams in college to be able to do that stuff. So, yes, football is where all the money is, but that money is also transitioned to these other sports and able to do that because the Iowa women's basketball team on their own, now the last couple of years, I'm sure they made money, but over the history of women's basketball, they lose money every year, and they are subsidized by the football program and the rest of the athletic department and able to do that, or else they would be riding a bus or flying commercial. Like even, basketball is a little bit different. Softball teams fly commercial a lot. Golf teams fly commercial sometimes. Volleyball, it just depends on the university and what they decide to do, or sometimes they do chartered, sometimes commercial. They all have a budget to meet, and whatever it is, they use it to the best of their advantage. But it is good to see that they're transitioning to chartered flights. And I think some of it also comes down to the publicity and almost like safety of players. I think people are understanding how much Caitlin Clark just gets mobbed. That's kind of not the best maybe word for it, but just everybody wants to see her. Everybody's screaming. Everybody's yelling every time they see her. And that always hasn't been the case. And it's a good thing for the WNBA. And they're getting out ahead of it, I think, a little bit. And that's good. What are your thoughts on that? I know that was a ramble by me, but.
It's the Caitlin Clark effect. For the WNBA, this is their Tiger Woods. This is their Michael Jordan. So take advantage of it. Ticket sales are up, obviously, for the Indiana Fever, but a lot of the WNBA teams, tickets are skyrocketing. They're moving to bigger arenas. So the explosion is there. The support is there, and you got to take advantage. One thing I wonder about, some people won't like this. Will the WNBA protect Caitlin Clark a little bit? Will they talk to some of the other teams like, hey, this is our unicorn? Make sure that somebody doesn't push her from behind, in a game, to the ground, or where she breaks a bone in her face or something. Make sure there's no cheap shots, because they don't want Caitlin Clark or any of these young stars, Angel Reese, Cameron Brink. They don't want them on the sideline. They want them out there on the court if possible. We see the NBA, this load management stuff with, LeBron's older, but Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, some of these guys, it really hurts the product. So if the WNBA is smart, not that Caitlin Clark should get away with, fouling and stuff like that, just make sure there's no cheap shots, because you don't want her taking something, like I said, getting shoved from behind, getting pulled down or something, breaking her leg. You want her in the game, because right now as a movement, you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and even not necessarily talking to teams, but the officials. Is she going to get that extra step? Is she going to get, the benefit of the call, the Michael Jordan whistle? She should. And that was the biggest thing in last year's title game with LSU and Iowa, where Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark were on the bench. And that was the biggest issue with the officiating, was your stars weren't out there. And it was on both sides. It wasn't just Caitlin Clark. And it was not a good call to get her there, but both sides had the foul trouble.
You and I talked about, I think one team had 18 fouls and the other had 19. So it was bad all around. It didn't change the outcome of the game, but like we said, it just ruined it for the TV audience. I mean, there was a whistle every 15 seconds, and you don't want your stars on the bench at all.
Yeah. And then, just women's sports in general are more popular, and the more you put them on bigger networks and bigger TV, more attention, more money. And, if looking 3 years ago, it would have been a great opportunity to buy a WNBA team if you had that kind of money and you're only going to go up. It was a risky business 10 years ago, but 3 years ago, it would have been a pretty good investment. Looking ahead, looking back to what we know now. Anything else with the WNBA or Caitlin Clark in particular?
No, I mean, the preseason game was fun. I watched it all. I think I'm going to get into it. Like I said, I'm going to give it a chance this season. So they play again Thursday night this week versus Atlanta. And then next week, May 14th on Tuesday is their first regular season game on ESPN Plus and ESPN2 I've written down. So
what time is that on Thursday? Because I'm actually very interested in that.
6 p.m. Iowa time versus Atlanta.
Okay.
And if